Before we start, I may have made a couple of mistakes in this video. I kept saying chapters 4 to 10. In reality, this video is based on chapter 4 to 8, so mind that. So just keep that in mind. Every single time I say chapter 4 to 10, it's actually 4 to 8. So 4 chapters were covered. No, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5 chapters. 5 chapters were covered in this video. So hope you guys enjoy. Alrighty, Mistborn chapter 4 to 10 is what we are going to cover in this video. Now, last part is when Vin finally got free from that Cayman guy. Kelsier came to the rescue, and now Vin is a part of Kelsier's grand operation, which we'll get to in a bit. And my days, there's a lot to cover. So I guess chapter 10 will conclude the first part of the Final Empire. It's in multiple parts. I forgot how many parts there are exactly. I think there's 3 parts. So we shall conclude the first part of this book. So at the moment, Vin and the initial crew, like with Cayman and stuff, everyone's a bit unsure on what's going on, but there's a lot of rumors around Kelsier now. Like, he's a survivor of Hatchin. He's a legend apparently in the skaa world. I guess he is a bit of a controversial figure here and there, because he is a skaa, but then he also lives like a nobleman. A lot of rumors, but the biggest rumor is definitely him surviving the pits where no one's meant to survive. I think that's an area where the Lord Ruler normally punishes people who goes over and beyond, and Kelsier is one of the few people that actually survived the pits, which makes him a legend within the skaa. Within the skaa population. Vin also obviously is very skeptical at the start. He's like, oh, probably another guy's going to use me to his advantage. And yeah, she's expecting another Cayman at this point. And now we can actually meet the actual crew. Now, Kelsier's gathering a grand crew for his crazy plan, which we'll get to in a bit, but let's start off with the characters. So they are in a what do you call it, they're like in this house that Cayman used to own, but now obviously he got kicked out, so now Kelsier owns it. So this is where he's going to gather around his new crew to talk about his new grand plan. So now we start off with the first guy, Breeze. Now Breeze is a soother. A soother is someone who burns a metal to push on someone's emotion, to kind of calm them down, to kind of relax them, to make them do as he pleases. And that's exactly what he had done. He comes into the room with another guy called, what's his name again? He's a thug. A thug is the guy who burns his metal called Pewter. His name is Ham. So Breeze and Ham comes into the room, and Breeze straight away, he pushes on Vin's emotion, and Vin automatically was like, okay, let me grab you a glass of wine, which she'll never do. She will never do that, and she eventually realizes that. So that's Breeze. He's a soother. He is recruited to, I guess, push on people's emotion, and that's actually quite important in these type of political scenarios. Like, imagine if we had this in real life, it's going to be quite overpowered. Then we've got Ham. Ham is a thug, or a pewter arm, that's what they're called. They burn this metal called pewter. So again, we'll get to the magic system in a bit, but Ham essentially is this big guy. He's not your typical thug. Thugs are normally like a bit crazy, a bit, I don't know, rough and tough, but he's a bit of a calm, gentle giant. So I actually like Ham. Ham's pretty cool, but let's just say that no one really trusts Breeze at the start. He does seem to be a manipulator, a shifty guy, a bit too calm for my liking or anyone's liking, even in the story. So then we got introduced to another character called Clubs. He is the new smoker. Now the term smoker refers to someone who protects a group of people or themselves from other people who can detect Allomancy, which is the magic system. We'll get to that in a bit. So again, he's important because, for example, Steel Inquisitors and Obligators, some of them, or all of the Inquisitors and some of the Obligators are trained to detect Allomancy, and people like Clubs, who are smokers, can actually put a shield, and they burn a medical copper to make this shield happen. And pretty cool, honestly. Clubs, he's got his own crew full of smokers, so he's going to be a valuable asset. Now, there was a previous smoker that got killed, unfortunately, so Clubs would be, I guess, a new member to this pre-existing crew, if you say that. Now, Clubs, he initially, he came to the meeting, they left because of Breeze. He's like, I don't trust this guy, Breeze, so yeah, I'm out of here, and everyone thought that Clubs was out, but he eventually came back and saying, you know, listen, Kelsier, I don't believe in your plan, but might as well die trying because I'm gonna get caught eventually because I've tried to hide so many people who tried to do bad in accordance to the Lord Ruler's regime. So yeah, that's Clubs, and I think Clubs is going to be a pretty cool character going forward. Yeah, excited to see him. Then we got the guy who actually hired Kelsier and his crew, Eden. You know, Eden is the current revolutionary leader. The old leader was Kelsier's brother, Marsh. That's an interesting one. Now, Marsh wants nothing to do with this plan. To summarize, Eden, he hired Kelsier, and Kelsier's got his own team, and he's recruiting, and Vin is the newest member of the team. That's the team in a nutshell. Now Kelsier reveals his plan. He walks into the room and everyone, like, there's a bit of a tension because this guy Eden, he's so what's that word? He's so paranoid. Like, I swear to God, he always doubts everything. Like, I'm here, like, you hired these people and now you're just questioning everything. Like, fair enough, you know? But basically the grand plan is to overthrow the Lord Ruler, and Kelsier even wants to kill this guy. And many people think that this guy is like indestructible, he is immortal, that you can't even scratch this guy. The Lord Ruler is known to rule the final empire for 1,000 years, ever since he became the Lord Ruler. Even to get past him, you have to get past, like, you know, I think the Lord Ruler has his own army. I forgot the term for the army, but he's got his own hidden army, or like he can summon some creatures, and even the Inquisitors, the Obligators, like, you have to get past all of that, the noble family, like, so many things you gotta do to get past the Lord Ruler. So Kelsier was like, my plan is to overthrow the Lord Ruler and to kill him. Everyone was in doubt, including Vin, like everyone. The doctrine that is taught in the Final Empire, it's all around the Lord Ruler. It is all revolving around the Lord Ruler's existence and power. And for them to hear that is like, yeah, you're nuts, you know? But again, Kelsier was persistent. He did introduce a way to kill him, and that is by using the 11th metal. Now, in Allomancy, right, we've got 10 known metals, 8 basic, 2 powerful, and the 11th metal, which is an unknown metal that Kelsier apparently has access to. He's never used it, but he believes that this is the weapon that is required to kill the Lord Ruler. And that actually excites everyone. Not just that, there's a metal called atium. Now, atium is, out of the 10 metals, I would say it's the most powerful metal from my understanding so far. In the Lord Ruler's palace, there's a whole bunch of atium, which is very valuable. And another thing that Kelsier mentioned is atium is harvested within the pits of Hatchsim. So if they can find a way to get the harvesting access from the pits and to steal it from the Lord Ruler's palace, that's a lot of money. Like, the value is insane in their world at the moment. So that is a huge incentive and even motivation to every single person that's in this meeting, and that ultimately led to everyone agreeing at the end. Even though it was hard, it was impossible, but yeah, that was a huge reason for them to go forward with this plan. So Kelsier's motive is quite clear. He just doesn't want to do this for the money that Eden hired them for. It's also revenge as well, because we know that Kelsier was stuck in the pits with his wife. His wife, unfortunately, is the one that didn't make it. She's pretty much dead, and Kelsier's, well, from what I could observe, is one of Kelsier's biggest motive to kill the Lord Ruler, not just to overthrow him, but to kill him, is to take revenge for his past wife. And at the end of the meeting, another incentive that Kelsier, or some sort of motivation that Kelsier gave to the crew, is he then announced that Vin is also a Mistborn, and that took everyone by surprise, because Kelsier himself is a rare find for a skaa. Now we've got Vin, 2 Mistborns. Like, 1 Mistborn is insanely powerful. Like, it literally, like, we'll get to that in a bit, but it's only common among noble people, not skaa people. And even if you are a skaa or a noble, Mistborns normally have their own attire, and if anyone sees a Mistborn, it's best to leave them alone. Even if they are not, like, good, it's best to leave them alone, because you do not want to deal with a Mistborn. That itself shows how powerful a Mistborn is. And we shall eventually dive into Vin's journey in becoming a Mistborn, mastering being a Mistborn, and just the awesome story that's about to come in our way. Just to finish off chapter 4, Vin, she's still skeptical. She doesn't trust anyone. Like her brother Rin, like this guy, like she's properly, you know, paranoid, or mate, she's gone through a lot of stuff, because this guy Rin, he's continuously inside of her head creating doubts of everything. Like Kelsier, he's like so different from Cayman. Like he interacts with his people, he debates with his people, he listens to his companions, like everything, which Cayman never did. Cayman was a proper dictator, while Kelsier is like, okay, Kelsier's a leader, that's the word. So Vin just doesn't want to believe it. Like every single time she sees Kelsier do something good, morally good, she's like, how's that possible? He must be putting on an act at this point. So Vin only wants to stay because she wants to learn Allomancy. She's so intrigued. She wants to learn to be a Mistborn, and that's the only reason why she's staying. Because, and even that, she's like, why is Kelsier telling me all this stuff? Like, wouldn't he hide that from me? Isn't he scared that I will turn against him? Because that's just the world she comes from. But so far, she's just been proven wrong by Kelsier and his crew, and yeah, she's just always in second guess. She's always talking to herself like, oh, what the heck? What is all this stuff? You know, this is meant to be like this. He's meant to betray me. Oh, what the heck? Absolute the worst. But yeah, looks like Vin is going to go through some character arc and through some emotional arc. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to read and find out. Alrighty, next chapter is when Kelsier literally robs a noble family. So it starts off with Kelsier being low on ATM. Now his right-hand man, Doxon's a good character. I actually like him so far. So yeah, Doxon actually spent 8 months on getting Kelsier's last batch of ATM, which is absolutely insane. And now Kelsier was like, if we've got no ATM, well, it looks like I'm going to have to steal it now. So he told Doxon at that time, because he's been away for a while, right? He told Doxon which house at the moment is the most powerful. And Doxon said House Venture is the most powerful at the moment. And Kelsier was like, all right, I'm going to House Venture. And this is where we got introduced to Allomancy. So anyways, Doxon gave him his Mistborn cape, which it's like a cape with multiple black ribbons at the back, and it helps them to blend in. And normally Mistborns, they normally go out with no shoes, hands and everything, just so any metal or any kind of contact with anything can be avoided, so they can't be traced as much, because metal can be detected by any elements if you have a specific power. So there's a couple of things that Kelsier always carries. He carries coins, he carries daggers, and you may have noticed that these are all metal stuff, and we'll get to that in a bit, because these are pretty cool. He also carries vials that has metals in an alcohol solution. Like, there's multiple alloys of metal within the vial, and every single alloy of metal needs to be at a specific percentage. Like, I can't remember the percentages from the top of my head, but I think like 91% copper, 91%, like 2% this metal or that metal. It has to be exact. It may be off by a slight margin, but if it's not exact, you can actually get sick. So any elements needs to make sure that they are ingesting a metal in accordance to a specific percentage, which is interesting, you know. But anyways, Kelsier carries these vials which has all 8 or 10 metals that, not 10, sorry, because the 8 basic metals, sorry. There's a couple of metals. In this chapter, there's 2 metals that actually caught my attention. Steel and iron. Now, if you burn steel or iron, from your chest, a whole bunch of blue lights just flash out, and wherever there's metal, right, it will link to that metal. And steel allows you to push on the metal. Iron allows you to pull on the metal. It's relative to your weight as well. So if you weigh more than a coin, let's say, and you push it, the coin's gonna fly away. If you push against a metal wall, and obviously the metal wall weighs more than you, you're going to get flung back. Same thing with iron. So if something's heavier, you pull it, you're gonna go towards it. If something's lighter, that thing's going to come towards you. One cool thing that these people do, even though a coin is lighter than you, if you push the coin all the way to the ground, it's then pushing against the ground, and the ground itself is heavier than you, so you're gonna fly up. It's very, like, the magic system in this is so insane because it's relative to actual science to some degree. Obviously, we're not introduced to any formulas or anything like that, which is fine. I'm not complaining about that, but it's just insane how it's all weight dependent. It's relative to actual gravity, which is insane. And then also another metal that we got introduced to is tin. People who burn tin are called tin eyes. If you burn tin, your observation of everything becomes crazy. Like, if there's light, the light becomes really bright. If someone's talking from a far distance, you can hear them. Basically, your observation and everything, like your touch, like let's say if it's very cold, you're going to feel more cold. If it's hot, you're going to feel more hot. So there's definitely pros and cons to burning tin, but good thing about tin is it burns really slowly. And then also another thing is the metals comes in pairs. So the opposite of tin is pewter, so that's one pair. Iron and steel is another pair. But in this chapter, we only got introduced to 4 metals: so iron, steel, pewter, and tin. And again, pewter enhances your strength. So let's say if you're bleeding and you're very, very weak, you can burn pewter to negate that. Like, you're not going to feel it, but the only problem is once the pewter actually runs out, you're going to feel it, and it's going to kill you 10 times than what you weren't used to. So there's pros and cons, which is good. It shows that this isn't perfect. There's definitely consequences. And pewter also burns very fast, so there's different metal burns faster while other metals burn slower, so you can leave tin on for a longer duration. Even copper, I think copper burns slow, so you can leave copper on for longer durations as well. But pewter, you need to be a bit careful with how you burn pewter. The whole magic system is so interesting. It's dependent on gravity, and it's also dependent on science, and it's also dependent on imagination, which I feel like it all combines quite nicely. Now, the action scenes in this chapter is quite insane. I gotta get my notes out for this, honestly. So this guy Kelsier, he sneaks into the venture house, right? First of all, he kills a guard. The way he kills a guard is he's pulling steel and iron and pushing against it, and basically he just Spider-Mans himself on top of the guard, pulls onto him, and then as soon as he pulls onto him, right? So I think the guard is wearing some metal plate, so he uses iron, pulls onto him, then while he's coming, he uses pewter, has a dagger on his arm, so he pewters the dagger to make it even more stronger, and then dagger straight to the throat. It's so graphical. Like, if they were to make an adaptation to this, it's going to be so graphical. Oh my god, like, just how it's so good, it's so well written. Just the action scene, just the thought behind it, I was enjoying reading all the action part. And anyway, so there was a whole bunch of action. He went through some guards and he found a safe in a wall. He uses Allomancy to take that chest out. Now we also got introduced to the special kind of guards called haste killers. They only wear wooden stuff. They don't wear metal. They are pretty much designed to fight allomancers because allomancers deal with metal, so they have like wooden swords and armors and everything. So Kelsier, yeah, he fought a few of them, took care of them. More allomancers came. He finally escaped with the safe. He used allomancy to take the safe out. Like, he pulled the safe out while, I think, burning iron and pewter at the same time, which again, everything is explained nicely in terms of how he uses Allomancy, which is cool. After he escapes in the safe, he escaped with money, a couple of gems, and the main thing he was after, ATM. He did find ATM in a small pouch. That small pouch is literally what he had to go through, which shows you the value of ATM. And he did take some injury, but he was burning pewter, so he wasn't feeling it. So while he's going back, he was continuing to burn pewter, so he won't feel that pain. So, but in the next chapter, we find out that he's been sleeping a lot. So I'm assuming once the pewter had expired or it's been completely burnt out, he was absolutely cooked. So it makes sense. So it's continuing to make sense, which I can appreciate. Okay, now before we move on, there's a couple of metals that I've missed to explain a bit further. So let's look at another pair, brass and zinc. So brass is used to soothe. So that's what breeze is is a specialist in. So he's an allomancer in burning brass. So he soothes people. Then there's zinc. Zinc is the opposite. So it rights up people. It angers people. And that's what Vin did to Kelsier on chapter 3 to prove that she was a Mistborn. She burned both brass and zinc. And again, we talked about copper. Now, copper is, again, it's clubs. He helps to protect people from other elements. The last one is bronze. Out of the 8 metal, that's the pair to copper. Bronze is what a lot of obligators would use, and that allows them to seek people who uses Allomancy. And copper is what is going to protect you from people who burns bronze. So anyone who burns bronze can pretty much detect where Allomancers are. So that summarizes all of the Allomancy that we know so far. We don't know anything about ATM, we don't know anything about the 11th metal yet, so that is what we know so far. And now let's move on to Vin's first training as a Mistborn. So I think this happened after Vin was spying on a conversation with Kelsier and Marsh. She tried to hide, and then Kelsier obviously knew she was there because he was burning, I think he was burning some metal. I think maybe he was burning tin to observe that she was there. Vin thought that she did an amazing job at hiding, but nope, Kelsier knew. And then Kelsier caught her, and then Vin was like, yikes, he actually caught me. Going back to the conversation with Kelsier and Marsh, Marsh came and said, you know, just don't like what you're doing. I think you're doing this whole thing to make fun of what skaa revolution was doing over the past 1,000 years. Like, we put so much hard work into this, and now you're using this for your own benefits, for your own revenge plan. You're doing this for money and stuff. But Kelsier actually seems quite genuine this time. Like, again, his wife died, and he's doing this like he actually has proper feelings, because there's moments where we can see through Kelsier's point of view, that this actually means a lot to him. So Marsh kind of eventually understood, and he was like, at the end, you know what, I'll hear you out, but I still don't agree with this, but I'll hear you out. And we know that Marsh is eventually going to join the crew. Not sure exactly what he burns as of yet. I'm assuming he is an Allomancer. The only guy who's not an Allomancer so far is Doxson and Eden, I think. But yeah, Marsh, I guess we'll get to more of Marsh moments. Now, Vin's training, she gets a mist cloak. Again, ribbon and everything, pretty cool. Kelsier takes her out into the mist, which seemed a bit scary, but once they're actually in the mist, and when she first started to burn tin, everything seems so fine. She's like, oh, what the heck, I can see everything, I can feel everything, I just sense everything. Like, yeah, the ground is cold, but that doesn't matter. Like, I can see everything in the mist, which is so new to her in the world of the Final Empire. So within the mist, this is where Kelsier was teaching her about all of the 8 basic metals, except for steel and iron. He's like, we'll get to that in a bit, but Vin obviously eventually won't listen to him, and she uses that, which gets her into trouble. But yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. So she learns how to push and pull on all metals. Every metal is a pair, so this is where she learns it. Again, when she was a bit intrigued about iron, she pulled on iron, because then she saw a blue line. She's like, oh, let me just pull on this. A coin rapidly came, and it was literally about to cause some serious damage, you know. And then Kelsier blocked it with his Allomancy, and then he's like, you know, told you should have just waited for me to explain. And now we finally get to the experiment and the lessons that Kelsier will be teaching Vin. The first lesson, crazy one, was, okay, put this coin to the ground and push on it as high as you can, and meet me on top of the wall. The wall was quite high. It was like super high. So Kelsier pushed on the metal. He flew up, and then he just left Vin on the ground, just stranded by herself. And Vin was like, are you serious? You seriously just left me on the ground expecting me to replicate what you just did? But she actually did replicate what he did to some extent. So Vin obviously pushed on it, and the important thing when you're pushing on a coin is, since it's such a small target, you just got to balance it, or you're just going to shift left and right. So she was struggling with that, but when she eventually reached the top, Kelsier did grab her, and now Kelsier was like, now we're going down. So when they were going down, you have to like slowly push on the coin, so you're kind of floating in the air. Now, she was having trouble balancing herself initially, but eventually she's done it. And yeah, that's a pretty good first training, honestly. And a nice little reminder is that Kelsier did mention that even when he was first learning on how to become a Mistborn, it was not easy for him as well. So nice little reminder that even Kelsier himself did struggle. So To see Vin actually do so well on her first go, even though she thinks she may have not done well, it shows that Vin is about to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, she does seem to be one of the main characters, so I mean that's the least we can expect at this point. Then we see a creature called the Mistwraith. The Mistwraith. It's a combination of like different species, could be horses, animals, humans. There's like a whole bunch of limbs, and it's weird as heck. Like, how do I describe it? So Vin obviously notices something following them in the darkness. Kelsier then reveals that it's a Mistwraith. It's a creature that it's, how do I say it? It's like not harmful, but it looks weird as heck. It's like this does expand on the supernatural side of the Final Empire. These Mistwraith, you can only see them in when there's the mist, when the mist comes. Basically, if there's a corpse, right? Let's say if there's a corpse of a horse, and that Mistwraith is just continuously digesting any corpse, and that corpse then becomes a part of the Mistwraith. Like honestly, very weird but interesting, I guess, but strange. And yeah, it's gonna be weird to see if this one adapted going forward. Then we meet a very interesting character called Sazed. Now, Kelsier then led Vin to a carriage where Sazed was waiting for them. Now, Sazed looks like he's, what's that word? I forgot the word, but people who attend to people, I forgot that word. Oh my god, why can't I think of that word at this moment of time? I guess you can say he's a steward, or he's like a assistant, but his background is, so he's from the land of the terrace, so he's called a terrace man, right? And normally noble people who's like very wealthy, they would only have terrace men as the stewards or assistants or whatever you want to call them, right? And this guy's extremely tall. He's calm. He's polite. He's very formal. He's very intelligent. He gives a very completely different energy from anyone on Kelsier's crew. Sazed then takes Vin and Kelsier to this land called Felice, and that's where Lord. Oh my god, I didn't even mention the important part. So basically what happened, right, in Kelsey's plan. So Hams is going to train the soldiers. Breeze is going to bring in the soldiers. Now, how will they get weapons? Now, I don't know if you guys remember from the prologue, they mentioned something like Lord Renew. Lord Renew was known to be a good nobleman, but here's the catch. The reason why he seems to be good, because Kelsier killed the initial Lord Renew. Like he dispatched him, which is insane, you know? And he's got a perfect replica. Like this guy who acts and looks and pretty much is Lord Renew. Like you can't distinguish it. It's such a good copy. And he resides in this land called Felice. So that's where they are going. So it's, oh my god, I can't believe I didn't mention that part. That's actually a very critical part. So obviously everyone has their own parts to do within this whole entire plan, and Lord Renew is going to be a huge asset going forward. Well, he's not really the actual Renew. He's a skaa replica, looks like, but he is acting like one, which is pretty cool. And so we know that skaa people could also live lavishly like a noble person. So this is not something new. It's not new. So obviously you can't expect every single skaa to be the same, because everyone in this organization, they are quite wealthy. Like you got Breeze, Ham, and everyone. So very interesting, honestly. So then Vin, Sazed, and Kelsier, they all go to meet Renew, this guy. Now, with the plan with Renew is Kelsier wants to stir up a lot of tension within the noble families. So obviously his grand plan is to take down the Lord ruler, right? But to do that, he needs to do a lot of steps going forward. So obviously one is to build an army, and you'd want that army to take the Lord Ruler out, but before that you need some sort of distraction. And if the noble houses can turn against each other, that would create an opening to capture the palace. Renew is obviously acting as one of the noble families, and the plan is for Vin is going to be a spy. They're going to attend multiple balls to take in all the gossip and get all the information and stir up a lot of stuff. That's the initial plan. So Vin is now going to be a spy, but the problem is she doesn't look very noble. She literally looks like a proper street scar. So She's going to have a big makeover, and now Sazed is going to be her personal assistant. That's what Kelsier said, you know. You're going to attend to Lady Vin. That's what her new name is going to be under the Renew house. She's now Lady Vin. Okay, I just got my notes out. So basically, Vin is going to go undercover as a noblewoman. She's not the niece of Renew. She's going to go as the daughter of one of Renew's favorite cousins. So a bit of a distant relative to keep her out of focus, because if she was his direct niece, she would get a lot of attention. So they kind of want the attention to stay away from her, just so she can be a bit more low-key and undercover. So Renew will introduce Vin to Luthadell's noble society as someone to potentially marry off to some other noble family to strengthen the family's name, but in reality, Vin's a spy. She's there to attend balls, social events, noble gatherings, and gather as many or as much information as possible from the greater houses. And this information can literally help Kelsier create conflict between the great houses. And before we end this whole entire video, we then get a last few dialogues between Sazed and Vin. Now we know that Sazed is very interested in different beliefs, and he was asking Vin like a lot of questions, like what do you believe in, like what's your purpose, what's your passion and stuff. And like I did read this book a few years ago. Obviously a lot of stuff is not in my head, but I know exactly where it's gonna go. Sazed is an expert or a specialist in religions, but he himself does not have a specific religion. So that's what I know so far. But again, that's not a major talking factor at this moment, but I'm sure we'll get to a lot of the stuff. Now, just to summarize, the grand plan is to rob the Lord Ruler, not just to rob, to eliminate him, okay? And again, Kelsier also shows us what a Mistborn is capable of doing. Him and Vin are now two huge assets, or I like to say weapons, to be honest, in this plan. We also know that Vin also starts to learn Allomancy. She's still beginning, so she's got a long way to go. Vin also chooses to stay because she only wants to see what's going to happen, and she also wants to learn Allomancy. And of course, the grand Renew plan to attend balls and weddings to mess up the whole great houses. So that's going to conclude our video today, chapter 4 to 10, concluding part 1. And honestly, I feel like the first 10 chapters it's a nice setup for the rest of the story. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know. What was your thoughts? Any comments down below? Let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.